You want to know which quarterbacks and tight ends should be starting or sitting in your fantasy football lineup? Stay tuned and we'll tell you. Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame community. I'm Pierre, he's Chris. We're going to go game by game as we do each and every week to tell you which players should be in your lineup and who should be on your bench. First, let's talk about those players you don't have to think about, the quarterbacks and tight ends that are just must starts. At quarterback, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. At tight end, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts. All right, now let's get to the games. Let's start with the first game of the week on Thursday night. That would be the Dolphins at the Bengals. Let's start with Tua Tagovailoa. All right, so a little bit of a down week against Buffalo. So overall, how do you feel about him in this matchup?
I feel pretty good about him. I'm not going to say a must start in 1 QB leagues, but I think he's a good start in 2 QB Superflex leagues because probably a game where they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. He's got weapons, so in a Superflex, in a 2 QB, he's a good start.
Yeah, I agree. And look, even if he is the real life MVP, which may or may turn out to be true, but here's the thing. He's going to be kind of dependent on the game script. They had to pass the ball a ton against Baltimore. They really didn't have to against Buffalo, and that was a tough defense. This is kind of a in-between matchup for me. I think he's a low-end QB1, but not a must-start. And then at tight ends, they do still have Mike Gesicki. Is there any fancy relevance for him?
No, not starting Mike Gesicki, no.
Yeah, definitely not starting Mike Gesicki. He needs a touchdown, but you can't count on that. And then we got Joe Burrow, bounced back because, well, it was the Jets. But hey, this Dolphins defense is giving up a ton of pass yardage, more than the Jets so far this year. So does that make Burrow a must start?
Yep, I think you have to start Joe Burrow this week in this matchup.
Definitely want to start Burrow in this matchup, and it's at home. He should be just fine. What about Hayden Hurst? He's been banged up. He's still kind of involved. How do you feel?
Yeah, and I didn't like what I saw in week 3, that's for sure. I think there are better streaming options than Hayden Hurst. I'm going to say no to Hayden Hurst.
I'm going to agree. Look, we saw Tyler Boyd get more involved. Hurst is kind of streamable, but not a great option, so only if you really need him. All right, the Vikings are going to face the Saints in London. So let's start with Kirk Cousins. Kind of been disappointing so far, even with great matchups. Got better last week, but not amazing. And now he gets the Saints. How do you feel about Kirk?
Not good. That was just a smash spot for him. Jefferson probably going to get Marshawn Lattimore. That's going to not be good for Kirk. I'm definitely not a guy I'm going to start in a 1 QB league. And I'm going to say kind of a borderline, if you need him, start in a 2 QB Superflex.
Yeah, I'm agree. In a typical single quarterback league, I'm probably not starting Kirk Cousins. It looks like it might take a little bit of time for him to really feel comfortable in this new offense, which should be better for him, but it hasn't been great so far. And now going against the Saints, yeah, I'm not going to trust Kirk Cousins this week. And then at tight end, they have Irv Smith, at least I've been told. Hasn't really done much lately. How do you feel about Irv Smith?
Yeah, still not starting him. Couldn't do anything against the Lions last week. Had that one, big week 2, but that's pretty much it. Not starting Irv Smith.
Yeah, you definitely should have better options at tight end. Pass on Irv Smith this week. And then what about Jameis Winston for the Saints? Been banged up. Threw for a ton of yardage anyways last week. He could probably do that against the Vikings, right?
Yeah, I think he's an okay streaming option in 1 QB leagues, and I think he's a solid start in your 2 QB Superflex leagues.
Yeah, I agree that he's not someone I have a lot of interest in a single quarterback league just because, look, he had to throw the ball. They were down all game in week 3. Maybe that happens, but look, they have a good defense, and like you said, Kirk Cousins hasn't been great. This game might be kind of a sneaky low-scoring game, so he's kind of a desperation start or super flex only. All right, Browns at the Falcons. We got Jacoby Brissett versus Marcus Mariota. So let's talk about Jacoby Brissett first. In fantasy, how do you feel?
He's looked pretty good. He's still not a guy I want to start in a 1 QB league. I think there are better options than him. But in the 2 QB Superflex, I think you can start him this week if you need him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been passable, at least in a 2 QB league, so I'm with you there. In that format only, you can start him just because it's the Falcons. And then, of course, just when we gave up on David Njoku, he had a monster game in week 3. Does he do that again against the Falcons?
Does he have a monster game like that? Probably not, but I think Njoku is a definitely good streaming option at tight end this week. His usage has increased in week 2 and then again in week 3, and we know Brissett does like to target tight ends, so definitely startable.
Yeah, what I like about him is, some of these tight ends have big games. It's usually just one big play or a touchdown or a pair of touchdowns. But he had a ton of targets, and this is what we thought he was capable of. He is a good receiver. They paid him for a reason. I feel like he could be the number 2 target in this offense against Atlanta. I almost want to say if you have him, he's a must start, but maybe I'm getting carried away. And then what about Marcus Mariota? The passing numbers will never be amazing, but he can always sneak in a touchdown. What do you say this week?
Yeah, not a great matchup. Don't really feel good about Marcus Mariota. Definitely not in a 1 QB league. In a 2 QB or super flex, if you need him, you can start him, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, he's always going to be that stream him if you need him kind of guy. I will say this, though. I think he's more of a high-end QB2 this week because what he does is run in touchdowns. That's what gives him fancy value. Cleveland has let Mitch Trubisky and Baker Mayfield both run in for touchdowns so far this year. I'm pretty sure Mariota can do the same. So he's a solid streamer. All right, Buffalo takes on Baltimore. You're starting both quarterbacks in that matchup if you got either of them. And at tight end, you got Dawson Knox. What do you feel about Dawson Knox in a pretty good matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. He just needs a touchdown, right? He hasn't scored yet. He needs a touchdown. And the problem is, they have Gabe Davis, they have Stephon Diggs, they even have Isaiah McKenzie. I think they're just better streaming options than Dawson Knox, so I'm going to say no.
Only because it's Baltimore and they've been that bad. I'll say you can start Knox, and I feel like he's okay. He's streamable, but he's definitely not a weekly starter like some people projected him to be. All right, Washington, Dallas. Start with Carson Wentz. Lit it up the first 2 weeks with 7 touchdowns, and then he faced a slightly better defense. All right, so going against the Cowboys here, how do you feel he does?
Not good. I mean, the Cowboys defense isn't the Eagles defense, but it's still a pretty good defense, and it's not a game, where game script's going to be in his favor, and he's just going to chuck it a lot. So, don't like Carson Wentz this week in any format. To be honest, I'm not starting him.
Yeah, I don't because look at a lot of these. A lot of his fantasy points he's gotten is because he's just had to throw the ball a ton. I kind of feel like the Cowboys are going to get in a lot of these kind of low-scoring slugfest type of games because they have a pretty good defense and a mediocre offense. So I don't expect big things. I'm going to sit Carson Wentz. And then his tight end is Logan Thomas. Is there hope for him?
I mean, kind of like Dawson Knox, right? Needs a touchdown. Totally touchdown dependent. And I just think there are good tight ends that you can stream this week on the waiver wire. So I'm going to say no to Logan Thomas.
I'm also going to pass on Logan Thomas. There's too many other quality receivers in this offense now. They don't need to go to the tight end in the red zone. So no to Thomas this week. And then we're probably going to get another week of Cooper Rush. So does Cooper Rush excite you? Because, he does face Washington, which has been a very generous defense.
I mean, I guess if there was ever a week you were going to consider starting Cooper Rush, this would be it. But I'm not starting Cooper Rush, no.
I will say that if you're in a super flex league, this might be the time to break him out because at least he might give you more upside than some of these other guys, but that would be it. And that's still kind of a lotto ticket play, if anything. Dalton Schultz didn't play week 3. Not sure what will happen for week 4. It seems possible that he does come back. So if he does play, do you play him?
No, again, with Cooper Rush and with this injury that will probably limit his effectiveness, I'm going to sit Dalton Schultz.
I'm going to say if he comes back and he's good to go, I am going to play him because, again, the defensive matchup, and he's a guy who's going to get targeted, I think, a fair amount by Cooper Rush. So if Schultz is good to go, which is definitely possible, I'm going to start him. All right, Seattle and Detroit. Battle of the Gunslingers, this will not be. But let's start with Geno Smith. Hey, he didn't do bad last week, but in fantasy, are you going to go with him?
No, I mean, I know it's maybe it's not a good matchup against the Lions. Maybe the secondary is better than we think. He just had a great matchup, and it wasn't like he went out there and crushed it. So, no, not starting Geno Smith.
Agree. Don't get fooled by this matchup. It's still Geno Smith, so you can pass. And look, he's not running the ball at all. He doesn't have much of a floor at all. And then we got Will Dissly. Look, 2 out of 3 weeks, he scored a touchdown. Geno is targeting the tight ends. Is Dissly streamable?
No, 3 catches? And if we go by the 2 out of 3 games he scored a touchdown, does that mean he's not going to score a touchdown this week? Because that's what he's doing, right? Every other week. But no, I'm not starting Will Dissly.
Yeah, I agree. That's getting a little desperate, and I'm not going to chase last week's touchdown or the one from 2 weeks before. All right, and then we got Jared Goff. It feels like he's doing better than he is, but you look at his numbers, he's not getting 300 yards a game, and he's really not putting up big fantasy numbers, and you know he's not getting you any rushing value. So do you have interest in Goff because it's against Seattle?
Yeah, not in the 1 QB league, but in a Superflex 2 QB league, I think he's a solid start just because of the matchup. I think we both expect Sun God to go off. He'll probably score a touchdown, so I think he's startable in a 2 QB Superflex.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. He's a kind of a safe play in that format. But again, maybe he doesn't really have to throw the ball much because it's Seattle's offense on the other side. So not exciting, but again, super flex, you could use him. TJ Hawkinson finally did something. Does he do something again against Seattle?
I mean, maybe. It's a good matchup, so I think you could feel fairly confident starting TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah. Good start. I don't think we can go so far as to say Hawkinson is a must start. Look, maybe if Swift doesn't play, then he benefits somehow, but as long as they got that target hog there with St. Brown, Hawkinson is not a very exciting play, but he's a decent start. Chargers at the Texans. Okay, so Gerald Everett had been looking good the first couple of weeks. We don't know about the Keenan Allen situation, so let's just assume Keenan Allen does come back. Does that make Everett expendable?
I don't think it makes him, a complete avoid because this is a good matchup. I think he's still startable. He's not one of my favorite tight ends this week, but I think, if you need him, you can start him.
Yeah, I think I feel the same way that you could still use him, but there's other guys that we like a little bit better. So he's a okay stream if you need him. And on the other side, okay, so obviously Justin Herbert, if he's playing, you're starting him. Davis Mills has not looked good. I mean, does he have any value at this point?
Not really. No format I want to start him, especially against this Chargers defense. I know the defense didn't look great against the Jaguars, but I'm not expecting that again against Houston, so I'm not starting Davis Mills.
Yeah, I really expected more from Mills in this whole offense, at least something. I didn't expect him to be great, but I expected more, so you're going to have to pass on Mills for the time being. All right, Tennessee is going to take on Indianapolis in Indianapolis. Let's start with Ryan Tannehill. Do you think that he gets it going against Indy?
I mean, this defense looked pretty good against Patrick Mahomes last week, so I'm not starting Tannehill in a 1 QB league. I think in a 2 QB super flex, he's okay if you need him.
Yeah, I'm never going to be super interested in Tannehill. Derrick Henry finally got going, and so to me, yeah, I can't ever be interested in Tannehill. Superflex only, for sure. Now, what about Matt Ryan? I mean, they got the W. He still didn't look great. I mean, are we worried about him now?
I mean, for fantasy, yeah, probably a little bit worried about him. But this is a really good matchup. This Tennessee secondary is not very good. I mean, I know they beat the Raiders, but Derek Carr had a really good fantasy game. I think I feel okay about Matt Ryan, even as a streamer in a 1 QB league.
I can't go that far. I think in a single quarterback league, I think I'd look elsewhere because, well, what I worry about is the fact that maybe because Tennessee's defense isn't too great, not a potent offense, maybe this is more of a Jonathan Taylor game. I don't feel like they'll need Ryan. I feel like now they know they maybe can't just depend on Ryan. So without any rushing upside whatsoever, I feel like he's only a super flex play. And then got to talk about Jelani Woods, the rookie from Virginia, caught 2 touchdowns. Is this the start of something, or is this just kind of like an O.J. Howard situation?
Probably not as extreme as an O.J. Howard situation, but I don't know if it's the start of anything either. I'm not ready to trust him in my lineup yet, no.
Yeah, again, don't overreact. Look, I think he could develop into their starting tight end, a reliable tight end. But look, what we saw one week, Granson did something, and Mo Alley Cox is still a starter. So, yeah, don't start Jelani Woods right now. Bears facing the Giants. Probably not going to be a treasure trove of fantasy points in this game, especially from the passing game. But let's talk about Justin Fields, who, just not throwing the ball. I mean, can we count on him for anything?
No, I can't start Justin Fields. It's great that he's a running QB, but you have to do something through the air, and they're doing nothing through the air. So, no, I can't start Justin Fields.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really him or if it's just the play calling or both or what it is, but I thought last week he would show something, and he really didn't. So, just a hard pass on Fields at this point. Cole Kmet, it's just probably even harder pass.
Yeah, finally caught, I think, 2 passes, but no, I'm not starting Cole Kmet.
Daniel Jones, probably feel comfortable passing on him too, right?
Yeah, even in a good matchup like this, I can't start Daniel Jones, no.
Now, if you're getting deep in tight end, look, Daniel Bellinger, the rookie, is showing something, and there's not a deep receiver core. Is there a chance that you have interest in Bellinger?
Only because of the matchup and only because they don't really have any receivers. I'm going to say in deeper leagues, if you're desperate and you need him, I think he's okay, again, in deeper leagues.
Yeah, and so for me to have to be a PPR league because he doesn't have the touchdown upside of some other, tight ends here. But he's getting targets, and like I said, not a deep receiving core. Better in Dynasty than in redraft, but I think Bellinger is kind of an interesting name to tuck away for later this season, and he's sort of almost streamable this week. So the Jaguars now go to Philly to face the Eagles. Does Trevor Lawrence keep it going from that big win, or does he fall back to earth?
Yeah, this is going to be a true test for him. I know that we thought the Chargers were a true test, and he came through, so maybe he does come through again. Not a guy I want to start in a 1 QB league, but I think in a 2 QB Superflex, I feel good about him.
So definitely looking better, but I worry about the matchup. I know we worried last week, but still, I'm not there yet with him, so Superflex only for me. Evan Engram kind of let down last week, among all the players who did well for Jacksonville. He wasn't one of them, but do you think he might have value here?
He's okay. I do worry again about this matchup and this Jaguars passing attack not being as good this week, so I'm going to sit Evan Engram.
Yeah, I think you have to. If we don't love Lawrence, you can't love Engram, right? And he's really targeting the receivers a lot more, so there is some hope, but not for a big game, so I'd rather just keep him on my bench. And then on the other side, of course, you're starting Jalen Hurts. Dallas Goedert, look, a couple more games like this, he might just enter that must-start, no doubt territory. But against the Jaguars, he's got to be a pretty good start.
Yeah, he's got to be in your lineup, absolutely.
All right, so the Jets are going to face the Steelers. So if Zach Wilson does play, are you going to take a chance with him in your lineup?
No way. First game back from injury. Not starting Zach Wilson. Let me see how this offense looks with him first.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I'm going to wait and see. Look, it's not like Zach Wilson would be a must-start, even if he was 100% healthy to start the season. The jury definitely still out on him. Now, at tight end, regardless of who the quarterback is, Ty Conklin getting a ton of targets. He's gotten at least 7 targets in each of the first 3 games. Can you feel pretty confident about him this week?
Absolutely. One of my favorite streaming tight ends this week. He's still available on a ton of waiver wires. Playing like every single snap. I think Ty Conklin's a great start.
Yeah, definitely a strong starter at tight end. Really, look, guys, you want to chase that target volume. He's getting it. He's up there with all the tight ends in the league. So, solid start, Conklin. And then, do have Mitch Trubisky for now. He's still a starter in Pittsburgh. Any confidence in him because he does get the Jets?
This is a get-right spot. It's the Jets. Still don't want to start him in a 1 QB league, though. But in a 2 QB Superflex, if you need him, I think he can be started just because of the matchup.
Even this matchup, I don't know. I just don't see it for him. I think he's going to really depend on his receivers to make plays for him. I feel like with the Jets on the other side, they might just be able to run the ball a lot more. I don't feel like they'll need to pass. The volume won't be there. I'm going to pass on Trubisky. And then we do have the Friar Goat on that side. I mean, I wish he had a better quarterback, but for now, Freiermuth still startable.
Yeah, I know he didn't have a great game last week against the Browns, but this is the Jets. I'm starting Freiermuth if I've got him.
Cardinals taking on the Panthers. Kyler Murray, not doing great things, but is he still startable in fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, we probably can't view him as a top 5, maybe even a top 10 QB, but I think in 1 QB leagues, there's not a lot of guys I'm going to put over Kyler Murray when we get into that, bottom part of the QB1. So I think he's still startable, even in a tough matchup.
That's the thing. I mean, I really at this point just want to say you don't have to start Kyler Murray, but there have been a lot of quarterbacks who've kind of disappointed so far early in the year, including some veterans, right? Guys like Russell Wilson, so yeah, you can start him, but I still don't love it. Zach Ertz, I still at least have some confidence in, right? He's getting targeted, so I feel like still a solid start.
Yeah, if you have Zach Ertz, you have to start him.
You probably don't say the same about Baker Mayfield. I mean, maybe because it's Arizona.
I mean, maybe, but Stafford didn't have a good game against them, so no, I'm not starting Baker Mayfield.
Hard no. It'll take a lot for me to ever say yes to Baker Mayfield this season. Now, with the Patriots take on the Packers, there's a good chance it might be Brian Hoyer at quarterback for New England because Mac Jones, of course, that injury suffered in the very last play of the game, limped off, and it looks like it might be a long-term absence. So Brian Hoyer, backup quarterback. Any interest?
No interest. Going against Packers defense, no thank you.
I mean, I was barely interested in Mac Jones as it was, so definitely zero interest here. And then Hunter Henry, I mean, probably not.
No, what has Hunter Henry done? No, you can't start him.
What about Aaron Rodgers? Can he do something against the Patriots here?
Again, not a guy I feel like you have to start in a 1 QB league. I mean, just not a ton of upside. I think he's okay in a 2 QB Superflex league, but I think you should be able to do better in a 1 QB league.
Yep, I'm exactly with you there. And the thing is, this isn't Chicago Bears. The Patriots are at least decent on defense, right? Usually pretty solid. They're not going to let him tear them up. And so this is going to be a slow-paced game, low scoring, I feel like. I'll pass on Rodgers unless it's a 2-quarterback league. And then his tight end is Robert Tonyan. He really hasn't done a lot.
Yeah, still working his way back from that ACL injury. I'm not starting Robert Tonyan.
Nope, neither am I. So the Broncos get to face the Raiders. Maybe that's what Russ needs to get going. Do you still keep Russell Wilson in a single quarterback league as your starter?
Call me crazy, but I'm giving him one more chance against the Raiders because it's the Raiders. Ryan Tannehill just put up a very nice game against them. This defense, for some reason, cannot stop the pass. I'm taking a chance for the Russ for one more week.
Not crazy because I feel the same way. I mean, I think it's going to take a while before this offense actually clicks. Obviously, we got a rookie head coach, new system, the quarterback still learning things. It'll happen, but look, it's the Raiders. Like you said, this team is not good. I think he can at least be serviceable. I'll go with Russ one more week. And then on the other side, Derek Carr. I mean, as bad as the Raiders have been, and record-wise, it's not showing, but Carr's still putting up numbers. 300 yards last week. Is Carr startable, though, against this Broncos defense?
I don't know if I want to start him in a 1 QB league just because of this defense. I mean, maybe, but that's the other thing. I don't think the Broncos are a team that can, force the Raiders into a pass-heavy game script. So I'm going to say 2 QB Superflex only.
I'm still keeping him kind of at the very, very bottom of that QB1 tier because they're still going to pass the ton. He's throwing the ball a lot because the defense isn't good. If Russ has a good game, Carr might have to match him. So I am okay starting Carr in a single QB league. And then Darren Waller has been disappointing a little bit. And you know what? Now we got guys like Mac Hollins coming out. Is Waller a must start?
I think you still have to, just because look at the state of the tight end position. I mean, it's not good that we've got Hunter Renfrow, Mac Hollins, and Devontae Adams now, but you can't really sit Darren Waller.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, chances you have a better tight end, probably slim. So if you got Waller, you should go with him. Always touchdown upside. All right, the Chiefs and the Bucks. Well, Tom Brady, no longer must-start territory. He does get Mike Evans back. Maybe they have to pass the ball a lot. Do you think this is a bounce-back week?
Not really, because I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to put up a ton of points on the Bucs. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. Yeah, having Evans back helps, but then what? Russell Gage, I think he's okay. Not a guy I want to start in one QB league, but I think he's okay in a 2 QB Superflex league.
Well, you know what? I'm going to talk about him, believe it or not, in our Booms video. I'm feeling good about Brady, so I'll save it for that, but I'm saying yes, you do need to go with Brady this week. And then his tight end is Cameron Brate. I thought he would be more involved. He really isn't. I mean, obviously it's touchdown or bust with him. Do you feel any kind of positive vibe for him?
Yeah, I mean, he can always score, I guess, but I'm not banking on it. I'm not starting Cameron Brate.
No, I can't start Brady. And then we got the Rams at the Niners Monday night. So Matthew Stafford, I mean, he's been okay going against San Francisco on the road. Is he still startable?
Yeah, I think he's still startable. It's not the best matchup, and I haven't liked what I've seen other than that Week 2 game, but it's hard for me to bench Matthew Stafford. So I'm going to say he's startable, like borderline startable in 1 QB league.
Yeah, that's the thing is borderline is exactly right. Kind of depends if you have somebody else with more upside, because I don't feel like they're going to need to pass the ball a lot in this game based on how San Fran has looked. You never know with these kind of West Coast rivalry games, but I think you can start him, but I don't feel like he's going to go off or anything. Tyler Higbee continues to be involved. I mean, I guess kind of serving as their de facto wide receiver 3, or actually more like a wide receiver 2, since Allen Robinson isn't doing much. So is Higbee kind of an every week starter now?
Yeah, if you've got Tyler Higbee, put him in your lineup. He's a very good start at the tight end position.
Yeah, I mean, not a great matchup for tight ends, but Higbee's getting targets. You keep rolling with him. And then there's Jimmy G, who definitely didn't look his sharpest last week. Does he bounce back?
No. Look, I know the Rams secondary isn't, what it was maybe last year, but it's still good. And Jimmy G just looked terrible. And Kyler Murray didn't have a great game against them. So, no, I'm not starting Jimmy G.
No interest in Garoppolo. And, he's a guy you would only maybe stream in really good matchups, and this ain't it. But George Kittle, I mean, back to full health. Is he startable?
Yeah, again, just one of these guys like Darren Waller, Tyler Higbee. You just can't really sit him with the state of the tight end position, so you have to start him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't probably have anybody with more upside than Kittle, so definitely start Kittle if you got him. All right, so we just told you how we feel about quarterbacks and tight ends who should be starting or sitting in your lineup. But of course, you also need to know about running backs, wide receivers. We got you covered. Check out our playlist. It gives you all the start-sit advice you need for week 4 to try to help you set those winning lineups.